Let's talk about CEDIA 2022 and all the news that Denon and Marantz had this year. So unfortunately I didn't get to go, but I've been keeping track of the show and I have a whole bunch of friends there getting all kinds of information. And I think one of the big stories out of this year's CEDIA, and with the leaks preceding the show as well, was all of the big moves that Denon and Marantz are making with their new receiver, preamp, amplifier product lines. So I'm not currently a Denon owner or a Marantz owner, but I was for a very long time. I used Denon receivers for the longest time until I stepped up into separates in the years between when Pioneer Elite went out and my move to separates. In my first several years of running separates, I ran two different Marantz AV77 level preamps, so I'm well acquainted with the companies, well acquainted with their products. I think they make generally really great stuff. Even when I had separates in my theater, I still had an X1600 running some 2-channel in my living room for a good long while. And I think it's really interesting what Denon and Marantz are coming out with over the course of the next year. So I think on the positive side, they're loaded for bear, man. They're coming out. Overhauls to the product line. I think big is just simply the best word to describe it. And in this video, I'm going to give a little bit more opinion and some higher level thoughts about their new offerings and their new announcements. I'm not going to do like a receiver for receiver or model for model breakdown. All of that information is readily available online now, I think including on Denon and Marantz web pages themselves. So I want to talk a little bit more about kind of the rumble effect, the ripple effect of what their announcements kind of mean for them and for the rest of the industry, and a little bit about like, well, is it worth really considering, or considering more so a Denon or Marantz product for your AV system or your home theater system coming up. So I think first of all that the look, the style, the technicals, all of that behind their new designs looks great. Yeah, there's a lot of consternation about Marantz kind of keeping some of the porthole design, but that's really, I think, a long-standing flavor of that brand, a representation of that brand. So it's not really a surprise that that design sense would stick around. I'm okay with that. But I think from model to model, and even from Denon to Marantz, they cover such a wide swath of capability, functionality, and scale that really, if you need a receiver, you kind of just really have to list out a little bit of like, what are the specific technicals that you need, number of speakers, HDMI ports, and various other elements, as well as your price point, and kind of pick the model that suits best. That's kind of always been the case throughout their product lines, but I think there's just, a better sense maybe of like distinction and more upscaleness, I think, with the brands. And so that's another big part of these new models. They're really coming super cutting edge. We're getting things like more proper HDMI 2.1 switching. We're getting direct room correction capabilities throughout a lot of the line, stepping up the quality of components, and even changing some of the design sense of the back panels with like an Anthem black and whitish kind of style element. We're getting some XLR connections on the back of receivers for pre-outs and stuff. And so it's just, I think, a really positive and strong engineering step for these models, basically. And they're stepping up the prices too. So along with all that extra engineering, along with those capabilities and all of that, comes some hefty price tags. We've now got Marantz essentially with the preamplifier playing in the same dollar range that like JBL Synthesis and Anthem play in. And so up until these product lines, I definitely had viewed Denon and even Marantz together, thinking about like tiers, right? Tiers of audio products, tiers of receivers. To me, they did exist in a bit of a lower tier than something like Anthem or Audio Control or JBL. And those, of course, you got Trinoff and Storm Audio and some of the others at another tier above that. But Denon and Marantz particular, right, they're fighting now. They're going to be scrapping to be considered in the same tier as those other brands. And so it's interesting. Will they qualify, particularly if you're sticking to just using Odyssey room correction and not opting all the way in for Dirac when you're using a Denon or a Marantz product coming up? Are they really competing build quality and performance and all of that at the tier of those peers? And I think there's a lot of benefits still too that give them a leg up over some of those peers. The fact that they are a little more mass market. I don't know how many units like Denon ships compared To Anthem, I would presume it's many, many, many more units of receivers, and that gives them a little bit of more engineering scale, I think a little bit more of a reliability and stability overall for their devices and their platforms, compared to some of the growing pains that Anthem and JBL and Arkham and some other brands have had with their latest models, you know, still having been on the market for some time and still lagging behind a little bit in terms of promised features, stability of firmware, and all of that. So there's some definite benefits to Denon and Marantz as a brand in that way. But if I've got $6,500 burning a hole in my pocket, would I buy a Marantz Pre-Pro over something like an Anthem AVM 90? I don't know. I probably, at least right now, I think I probably don't think so. And the other thing I think to keep in mind with all of these announcements is they dropped a lot of information here, but it's not like a same month or even in many cases a same year availability. So there's a phasing element to all of the product that Denon and Marantz announced that phases some of these models all the way out until later, mid, or later fall of 2023. Yeah, they're going to be offering direct room correction. That's not coming until sometime into the new year, maybe as late as promised is March or springtime. And then there's still questions about, well, is it kind of Dirac or is it the low frequency bass control part of Dirac, which, Dirac has different levels and different flavors, and are they going to support, what are they going to support, which ones in which models? And so there's a little bit, I think, still of some uncertainty there. Questions are being asked, and I think answers are starting to come to light, and hopefully, commitments for the future offerings that hopefully can be made right now and will be delivered as promised and on time. One of the biggest risks in technology is always the idea of buying something for what it might do later on versus what it does when you buy it right now today. So if you're buying in a shorter term one of these new receivers or one of these new audio processors and you want to be running Dirac in your room, you might be waiting many, many months, and that might be a reason to still consider another brand. And will it be late, and will it be on time, or will things be cut back? Again, there's always a risk buying for future capability, particularly when the roadmap or the length of time leading up to the delivery of those future capabilities may be so long. But overall, I'm really impressed. It's cool to see this company really come out and again look to step itself up and put itself, in lockstep with some of these more exclusive or maybe more premium audio brands. And will they find their place? Will they come out swinging again with a level of stability and capability and on-time delivery of promised features and all of that kind of shows up what we might consider to be some of these other more premium brands in receivers and in audio. So I don't think I'll be switching anything out anytime soon. Personally, I'm very happy with the Anthem stuff and would plan to stick with it in my setup here for a while to come. I'm already very squarely into separate, so not feeling a whole lot of a need to buy, say, a Denon receiver and use it in a preamp mode relative to what I already have. So I don't think they're going to shake out folks like me or like us that might already have recently bought in or invested in a brand, but I think they're going to deliver a whole lot of really interesting stuff, many, many units to a whole lot of folks. And I do hope to get my hands on some of the new devices without buying them because of the channel, be able to go hands-on, try some things out, and I'm working with some channel partnerships, collaborations to be able to do that, so stay tuned. We will see what happens on that front. So do sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think. Are you really, really excited for these products? Are you a Denon or Marantz brand diehard and you're sticking with them and you're ready to upgrade? Which one? Why are you buying that one? Which model are you looking at? Are you cool with the new pricing levels? Are you spending up, with Denon and Marantz as a brand? Share your story, share your information. Otherwise, please do all the regular YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, leave those comments, and look down below for some ways to support the channel. There's a whole gamut of memberships, Amazon affiliate links, super thanks, and more to be found down there. Thanks so much for watching. Coming back from a home theater fun, and look for a couple of other CEDIA thoughts and feedback videos in short order. Thanks.